In this film, Osman Hamdi Bey is at your age. Do you want to be friend with him? Friends, this is Osman Hamdi. I'm a writer, archaeologist, museum curator and painter. I'm one of the Ottoman intellectuals of the Tanzimat period. I am the founder of the first museum, today's Istanbul Archaeology Museum, in the Ottoman Empire. I was born in 1904 in Istanbul. My father was a versatile person. He was one of the pioneers who brought science and wisdom together for the development of our country. He contributed to the education of me and many young people. He was one of the country's first mining engineers. He was also a teacher, writer, soldier and state administrator. My father was disciplined and hardworking. He would say that science, art and higher education are indispensable and advise me to educate myself accordingly. I grew up in a family that reads and cares about art. I got a good education. I went to primary school in Beşiktaş, Istanbul. Even at that age, I was on a trip to Europe, where my father went on business. I spent my trip by observing around. I wrote down all the places I visited and saw. My advice to you is, you have to be a good observer. Street painters, exhibitions and museums in Vienna impressed me at that age. Drawing aroused great excitement in me. Those who saw the drawings in my drawing book in the middle school understood my talent for painting. I still keep my souvenirs from those days at Osman Hamdi Bey House in Kocaeli. I would be very happy if you visit. My father wanted me to study law abroad. Shortly after, I went to Paris to study law. While continuing my education, I started painting lessons at Paris Fine Art School because of my passion for painting. I apprenticed to the famous painters of Paris and thus I received a good painting education. I worked at different levels in government affairs. My first assignment was in the province of Baghdad. While I was carrying on my duty, I continued to paint. Influenced by the beauties of the city, I made paintings reflecting various views of Baghdad. While making the paintings, I was also interested in history and archaeology of Baghdad. I was appointed as the first mayor of Kadıköy in 1875 and continued this duty for 1 year. Thanks to my foreign language knowledge, I continued to take on duties in many government jobs related to foreign countries. Later, I left civil service and started to work as the director of Musée Humayun, in other words, Imperial Museum in 1881. Artifacts from our lands were taken abroad. Because I thought that I should change the situation, I prevented our works from being removed from our lands with the provision I made. As we carried out new excavations, our museum became rich and took its place among the few museums in the world. Musée Humayun had become an archaeology-oriented museum. Weapons and military equipment in our collections were left in a place that would later become the Eslihai Askeriye Museum. This new museum, which is the foundation of the military museum, was opened to the visitors in 1908. I ensured the establishment of artifact warehouses in the cities other than Istanbul. These warehouses became the basis of the museum to be established in the future. All these efforts made me the founder of contemporary Turkish museology. I was accepted as the first Turkish archaeologist in the country. My most important archaeological excavation was at Sidon King's Cemetery in Lebanon between 1887 and 1888. During these excavations, I found the world's famous Alexander sarcophagus. The artifacts we found were so numerous that a new museum building was needed to display them. I worked with famous architects for the construction of this building by convincing the managers of the period. I started the construction of the building, which is called Istanbul Archaeology Museum. After this work, which consisted of 3 parts and lasted for 8 years, our museum was opened to visitors in 1907. I had a library built in the museum so that people who come to visit can get information about the works exhibited here. Important museums such as Military Museum and the Marine Museum were opened during my tenure. With these works, I became a world-renowned name in the field of museums. Medals came from countries such as France, Germany and Greece, and my achievements were appreciated. Although I succeeded in many tasks, my love for painting never diminished. I never stopped drawing, because the moments that made me happiest were when I was painting. I usually paint at my house in Gebze during the summer months. My paintings, which I named as the woman in Şehzadebaşı Mosque courtyard, woman with mimosa altar, girl picking lilacs, and Tortoise trainer, are among my most famous work of art. In my best-known painting, the Tortoise trainer, I also painted myself. I wore clothes unique to the East and had my own photo taken. Then, looking at that photo, I drew my own picture. The venue in the painting is the Yeşil Mosque in Bursa. I started drawing here and finished it in my own workshop with the help of the photograph taken later. So what was the Tortoise training telling us? An old man with a beard, hunchbacked, dressed in a red robe and dervish clothes. He watches the lettuce-eating turtles in a messy room with a thoughtful and tired look. Old man holding ney instrument, hands clasped behind his back. He tries to train the turtles by blowing the ney, but we see that his efforts are inconclusive because he's holding the ney instrument in a wrong way. So the picture was telling that, even if he was a dervish, his patience had an end, and that his efforts were sometimes insufficient. As the first Turkish archaeologist, I laid the foundations of the science of archaeology. In my pictures, I depicted Turkish people reading, discussing, and images of women trying to improve themselves. I used historical buildings as a decor and historical objects as accessories. Many of my works are still in Istanbul Painting and Sculpture Museum. You can go and see it whenever you want. In addition, it is exhibited in important museums of London, Liverpool and Boston. Friends, never forget to attach importance to arts and cultures. The most important thing is to protect your national and cultural values.